Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
I'll just say this to them. I am not going anywhere. I'm not going to be bullied. I'm not intimidated. And I'm going to go toe-to-toe with him. Everything he throws at me, believe me, my tapes are much better than theirs.
Believe me.
You're going to release more tapes.
If I need to, I'll do what I have to do to protect myself.
How are you going to determine whether you need to?
Oh, we'll see. He's threatening to get me arrested. He's trying to intimidate my publisher and trying to intimidate me. Donald Trump has met his match.
We will leave it there. I'm Marissa Manigault Newman. Thank you for your time.
Ooh, really? I mean, it's just that. So, you know, like, let's just step back for a brief moment and realize that the reason why the president released a letter dated July 27th, yesterday, saying that they were stripping John Brennan of his security clearance, and they were going to put under review all these other people who don't have security clearances to see if they could retain a security clearance they don't have, was to change the subject from these tapes that Omarosa has. That's how bad she's gotten under his skin. And no one knows why. Nobody knows if she really has the goods on him or whether or not she, has a couple of conversations of John Kelly firing her and then Ivanka calling her to say how sorry she is and Jared calling to say how sorry he is. And then Laura, well, that's kind of incriminating, giving her a no-show job, but paying her $15,000 in a hush agreement, which, by the way, is very similar to the Karen McDougal story. Also similar, if you'll notice, if you will, if you must, if you may, to the Stormy Daniels story. All hush money, all go away money, all just keep your mouth, your trap shut money, right? This is who the president of the United States of America is. But what's really sick is that to deflect away from his, petty behaviors, from his lack of fidelity to his wife, to his lack of care for a girl. Karen McDougal has got the worst taste in men ever, who really loved him and had a 10-month affair with him, to Omarosa, who obviously worked with him, for years and years and years on this reality TV show, The Apprentice. She also did another reality show that didn't take off with him. She... So I mean, we don't know if this is just petty infight, kind of, this is what Trump cares about, is his own little universe and his own little reality show of a presidency that he's got going on there. But here's where it gets dangerous. It gets dangerous when yesterday he yanks the security clearance from the former director of the CIA, the man who actually hunted down and found Osama bin Laden for us and killed him, had him killed. That's John Brennan. And the president is playing tricks to distract you from the distraction that is, or should be, Omarosa. What a sick universe this man lives in and is... I hate to use the word governing. He's not governing. He's using power for, you know what I mean? It's so unbelievable. So today he tells the Wall Street Journal, I swear to God, this is so sick, because the Wall Street Journal want to know, why did you go after ex-CIA Director John Brennan's security clearance? And that letter, they put out 2 letters yesterday. This is how sloppy they are. Okay. And so for everybody who thinks he's magical and he's got some mystical plan and that he's really, using his intelligence people to hunt Hillary Clinton, and in the end, it's all going to be about Hillary's emails. I have no idea. It's very sick and twisted what people have to do in order to follow and believe this man. And as I said, it's only 26% of us, okay? Only 26% of Americans identify themselves as Republicans. That's it. Only 26%. So again, when you hear 51% of Republicans believe that the media is the enemy of the people, you're talking half of 26%. You're talking about a lot of, low information voters who only watch Fox News, where they're feeding them a steady diet of Mueller is a bad, bad man. Mueller's got to go. Mueller is evil. Mueller is, hunting the president. It's the latest fringe theory every day,
Robert Mueller is a greater threat to this republic and the Constitution than anything Vladimir Putin did during the campaign.
There, I said it. It's Mark Levin, everybody. Mark Levin.
What is happening here is a coup d'etat.
What essentially amounts to a coup d'etat.
A soft coup is underway.
This is a coup d'etat, and Mueller is part of it.
This coup that is taking place, and make no mistake, it is.
As the Wall Street Journal said, this is the first attempted coup d'etat in American history. I mean, it's a mini coup d'etat.
The silent coup.
The soft coup.
This is designed to create the atmospherics for an impeachment.
Forcibly remove a duly elected president.
An effort to subvert the administration.
They're trying to prove the administration is illegitimate.
Whatever word you want to describe that. Fixing, rigging, a coup, I don't know.
Yeah, you are describing the very elements of a palace coup.
This is very dangerous what happened here. They're covering for what they did, the Democrats.
Mueller is doing so much damage to this country right now.
This family is a patriotic family. And what's happening right now is a coup against the will of the American people.
There is a syndicate going on within the Department of Justice. Let's call it a cartel, the equivalent of the mob.
You're not attempting to remove a president of the United States simply because you disagree with him. That's not America. That's some banana third world republic south of the border.
The FBI has become America's secret police. Secret surveillance, wiretapping, intimidation, harassment, and threats. It's like the old KGB.
Is Mueller a greater threat than Putin to this country?
Well, he's a serious threat.
Mr. Mueller, you can leave the room and don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. We'll see you in court.
Okay, Mark Levin. There, I said it. The expression is don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Why can you F up a joke? I mean, how is it possible that you can't even get that out of your freaking face? Go back to Hillsdale College and take a course in colloquialisms, okay? Just do that. Or have the Heritage Foundation buy your books in bulk. Poor Malcolm Nance has a real book on the real New York Times bestseller list, and these freaks have the Heritage Foundation buy their books in bulk so that they could be on the New York Times bestseller list. You see, it's a little dirty trick that they play. However, this is what goes on that Faux News channel. They are just feeding a steady diet of 26% of the American people that Mueller is the problem. Not that the president is somebody who was elevated to a position of power in this country with Russian money. Russian money that was laundered through his buildings and has been laundered through his buildings since 1984. It's like True Romance. I haven't killed somebody since 1984. It's amazing. It's amazing. So that's why, people believe what they believe, but they're a very small group, a very tiny, teeny group. But it's getting dangerous because here you have Brennan, who obviously was the CIA director, obviously was on the hunt for Osama bin Laden. Now, of course, he was our CIA director until January 19th, 2017, until actually the 20th when Donald Trump was sworn in and said, the American carnage or whatever, or the American dream is dead. That's what he ran on. The American dream is dead. Yeah, hey, let's vote for him. I mean, so here you have the CIA director who obviously protected and defended the United States of America from asymmetric warfare, obviously was part of the Russian counterintelligence investigation into the Russians contacting repeatedly Jeff Sessions, contacting Flynn, contacting Junior, meeting with Junior, sending Russian agents over here, meeting with Trump in the White House without any Americans present after the election, firing James Comey, telling Lester Holt he had to fire him because of this Russia thing, telling him calling Comey, going, get this cloud off of me, get this cloud off of me. What can you do to tell the American people I'm not under investigation? All this stuff that went on. Well, Clapper knows, and Brennan knows, and Comey knows, and McCabe knows. All these people know because they all worked counterintelligence for various agencies. But on top of the whole thing, you got the CIA director, right? It's unbelievable. And even Dan Coates, they tried to recruit, Trump did, Dan Coates, to say that Trump didn't collude with, and he won't do it. He's not having any of it. He won't say that he saw or what he didn't see or anything like that. But he will not clear Trump. He will not. He keeps saying the Russians are here. The Russians are in. They are in the electric grid. They are in the voter registration rolls. They have hacked Senate offices already. They're still here. They're still looking to interfere. They're still running that troll farm in St. Petersburg. There's not a damn thing America can do about it except be on the lookout because they're in Russia. They're in Russia. And if Vlad's chef wants to take his ill-gotten money that Putin gave him, how does a caterer become a billionaire, okay? Really, how many pieces of filka do you have to order in order for him to become a billionaire? This is Putin's chef that runs the troll farm in St. Petersburg. And all this money goes into that troll farm. And there's not a damn thing we could do except defeat them on the internets because they're in Russia. We don't have extradition. We can't, we can indict them all we want. But, I mean, honest to God, you have a president who has committed more violations against U.S. national security, and he has a security clearance. This was pointed out by our friend Malcolm Nance last night.
Well, it loses a body of knowledge. It loses corporate knowledge. I want to point something out about John Brennan. I know John Brennan. I've met John Brennan several times. John Brennan is the man that killed Osama bin Laden at the order of President Barack Obama by integrating CIA assets, producing the intelligence, passing that intelligence on to our special mission war fighters, and executing that mission. He has unique intelligence knowledge, which must be shared with his successors, and his opinion, which should be brought forth whenever this nation needs to defend itself. Donald Trump does not concern himself with the protection of this nation. He concerns himself with the protection of Donald Trump.
Yep. And
so he allows, as Steve said, people like Jared Kushner, who made contact with the Russians and asked for secure cryptographic communications to hide his back channel from the CIA and the NSA. He should not be cleared. John Brennan should be cleared. At this point, Donald Trump has given more top secret information to the Russians just through inadvertent disclosure than the clearance that John Brennan has had.
Thank you, Malcolm. I'm reading his book because, some of you have sent me the book. So I'm reading the book. And I got to tell you, it is so amazing how everybody in the intelligence community, including Malcolm Nance, they were on to this so early on, like 2015. Everybody kind of understood that Russia was trolling around for, somebody, who needed money, who they could rely on, who they trusted, who they had done business with before, who was an egomaniac, who had sexual foibles, who could be blackmailed, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the book is unbelievable. And here's what I did not know. I did not know Malcolm Nance was a Republican. Yeah, he was. So is Mueller. So is Rosenstein. So are so many people that have to investigate this president. Comey was a Republican, okay? So I just want you to know today in the newspaper, Brennan wrote the most incredible op-ed piece he wrote in the New York Times today. President Trump's claims of no collusion are hogwash. Little Midwestern flair there. You know how New Yorkers would put it, right? We would write, the president is a douchey liar. He's been cooperating with Russia since 1984. Is what we would write. But he wrote this amazing piece today, and he talks about, and there's more, there's lots more, okay? But this piece itself is just so unbelievable. He said, when Alexander Bortnikov, the head of Russia's internal security service, told me during an early August 2016 phone call that Russia wasn't interfering in our presidential elections, I knew he was lying. This is Brennan. Over the previous several years, I'd grown weary of Mr. Bortnikov's denials of Russia's perfidy, about its mistreatment of American diplomats and citizens in Moscow, its repeated failure to adhere to ceasefire agreements in Syria, and its paramilitary intervention into eastern Ukraine, to name just a few issues. When I warned Mr. Bortnikov that Russian interference in our election was intolerable and it would roil United States-Russian relations for many, many years, he denied Russian involvement in any election in America or elsewhere and feigned sincerity that I had heard many, many times before. President Vladimir Putin of Russia reiterated those denials numerous times over the past 2 years, often to Donald Trump's seeming approval. Russian denials are, in a word, hogwash. Before, during, and after its now infamous meddling in our last presidential election, Russia practiced the art of shaping political events abroad through its well-honed active measures programs, which employs an array of technical capabilities, information operations, and old-fashioned human intelligence spycraft. Hi, Maria Butina. How's your jail cell? Electoral politics in Western democracies presents an especially inviting target, as a variety of politicians, political parties, media outlets, think tanks, and influencers are readily manipulated, willingly and unwittingly, or even bought outright by Russian intelligence operatives. The very freedoms and liberties that liberal Western democracies cherish, that autocracies fear, have been exploited by Russian intelligence services, not only to collect sensitive information, but also to distribute propaganda and disinformation, increasingly via the growing number of social media platforms. Having worked closely with the FBI over many years on counterintelligence investigations, I was well aware of Russia's ability to work surreptitiously within the United States, cultivating relationships with individuals who wield actual or potential power. Like Mr. Bortnikov, these Russian operatives and agents are well trained in the art of deception. They troll political, business, and cultural waters in search of gullible or unprincipled individuals who become pliant in the hands of their Russian puppet masters. Too often, those puppets are found in many conversations with James Comey, the FBI director, in the summer of 2016. We talked about the potential for American citizens involved in partisan politics or not to be pawns in Russian hands. We knew that Russian intelligence services would do all they could to achieve their objectives, which the United States intelligence community publicly assessed a few short months later were to undermine public faith in the American democratic process, harm the electability of the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton, and show preference for Mr. Trump. We also publicly assessed that Mr. Putin's intelligence services were following his orders. Director Comey and I, along with the director of the National Security Agency, Admiral Mike Rogers, pledged that our agencies would share, as appropriate, whatever information was collected, especially considering the proven ability of Russian intelligence services to suborn U.S. citizens. The already challenging work of the American intelligence and law enforcement communities was made even more difficult in July of 2016, late July, when Mr. Trump, then a presidential candidate, publicly called upon Russia to find the missing emails of Mrs. Clinton. By issuing such a statement, Mr. Trump was not only encouraging a foreign nation to collect intelligence against a United States citizen, but also openly authorizing his followers to work with our primary global adversary against his political opponent. Such a public clarion call certainly makes one wonder what Mr. Trump privately encouraged his advisors to do and what they actually did to win the election. While I had deep insight into Russian activities during the 2016 election, I now am aware, thanks to the reporting of open and free press, of many more of the highly suspicious dalliances of some American citizens with people affiliated with the Russian intelligence services. Mr. Trump's claim of no collusion are, in a word, hogwash. The only question that remains are whether the collusion that took place constituted criminally liable conspiracy, whether obstruction of justice occurred to cover up any collusion or conspiracy, and how many members of the Trump Incorporated attempted to defraud the government by laundering and concealing the movement of money into their pockets. A jury is about to deliberate bank and tax fraud charges against one of those people, Paul Manafort, Mr. Trump's former campaign chairman, and the campaign's former deputy chairman, Rick Gates, has pleaded guilty to financial fraud and lying to investigators. Mr. Trump clearly has become more desperate to protect himself and those close to him, which is why he made the politically motivated decision to revoke my security clearance in an attempt to scare into silence others who might dare to challenge him. Now, more than ever, it is critically important that the special counsel, Robert Mueller, and his team of investigators be allowed to complete their work without interference from Mr. Trump or anyone else so that all Americans can get the answers they so rightly deserve. Donald Trump was asked by the Wall Street Journal why he revoked John Brennan's security clearance, and he actually said to the Wall Street Journal that it was all about the Russia investigation. He said, when he was asked why did he take away Brennan's security clearance, quote, "I call it the rigged witch hunt. It's a sham, and these people let it. So I think it's something that had to be done." Do you know the breadth and depth of the institutional knowledge of CIA operations and CIA operatives around the world that allowed for these intelligence people to get information on Osama bin Laden after long last, after we let him get away in the Battle of Tora Bora, and now no one can talk to him? Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.